morning and welcome to the second day of Symbiosis Literary Festival 2023. I would like to invite Dr. Suchetana Banerjee, Director, Symbiosis School for Liberal Arts, to say a few words and start the proceedings.
Namaste, sir. Namaste, Javed Saab. Thank you so much for joining and welcome to this second day of the Symbiosis Literary Festival. And I'm aware that, the audience is not here to listen to me, but more to hear you. But I'll just take a few moments to welcome both you and our Chancellor, sir, Dr. S.P. Majumdar. Thank you, Chancellor, sir, for envisioning and creating Symbiosis as a place that nurtures knowledge and diversity in every form. I think it's been your vision that led to the founding of the Symbiosis School for Liberal Arts in 2011, with a focus on interdisciplinary learning. And I think it has been your support that we have been able to initiate this literary festival, which hopes to bridge across academia, authors, students, and the larger community to take forward conversations that truly matter. Chancellor, sir, may I please request you to share your welcoming remarks with all the audience as well as us? Please.
Namaste to all. I'm really happy that on Sunday morning, I'm doing a very pleasant job of welcoming Javed Akhtar Saab. Javed Akhtar Saab is like a member of our Symbiosis family. No seminar is complete without Javed Akhtar Saab's presence. Vidya feels that he has some charge on him, and whenever he is invited, he obliges it. Javed Saab, thank you so much for coming over here. It's an online platform. What should I say about Javed Akhtar Saab? He is the pride person of India. If you ask me to describe Javed Akhtar Saab, he is one-man university. Javed Saab, we have organized this festival, and the theme is conversation that matters. There is diversity not only of fauna and flora, but there is also diversity in literature, poetry, music, and we thought that we should create a platform, an online platform for people, authors, poets, literary persons to come and discuss. And the interesting theme for this seminar is conversation that matters. There will be book reading, there will be discussion, there will be interaction, and I'm sure Javedji will excite, ignite, and excite our audience. So I do not want to take much of your time, but believe me, we in Symbiosis treat you as our mentor. With these few words, I thank Javedji for coming over here, and I wish this literary festival a great success. I do not know why they call it a festival. In a way, you are right. It's a festival, it's a time period, time spent in joy, exchange of ideas, conversations, dialogue. With these few words, I welcome all of you, especially Javed Akhtar Saab, and I request you to go ahead with your program.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your very kind and generous words. Dr. Majumdar, I mean, what do I say? What kind of respect and admiration I have for you, for what you have done and what you're doing. And I have not joined Symbiosis University for this festival. I feel that I'm constantly and permanently joined with Symbiosis. And I take great pride without doing anything for Symbiosis University. But the kind of work you are doing, sir, and your worthy daughter, Vidyaji, doing is a matter of great pride for all of us. Uh, it's so wonderful to know that now Symbiosis is opening up at other places also. And my best wishes and whatever little service I can offer anytime, you can take it for granted.
Thank you, sir. By the way, for your information, I must tell you that Javed Akhtar is our alumnus of Symbiosis International University. He was awarded, he was conferred delect at the hands of President of India. And so we welcome you not only as a guest, but
And
as
sir,
a
you will be happy to
alumnus.
know that University of London has followed Symbiosis footsteps. And they have this year they have also given me doctorate after Symbiosis University.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Javed Sahab, on behalf of Dr. Vidya Veeravedikar, our Pro-Chancellor, and Dr. Ramakrishna Raman, our Vice-Chancellor, Symbiosis International University, and the Symbiosis family, along with the audience that are eagerly waiting to hear you, I extend a very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
As an esteemed and respected member of our family and an iconic figure, your continued support and participation, both in person and virtually, every year has become the hallmark of this event. I was lucky to be with you when you came to the first SLF in Pune. So I was really, really honored to be with you in those days. We look forward to having you here in person next year and every year after that. Sir, on a personal note, I really wanted to share that, one of your, the lyrics of your song, Ye Tera Ghar, Ye Mera Ghar, from the film Saath Saath, I think has been, as a child, an extreme favorite of mine. It has always epitomized what I wanted in life, both in terms of, the material wealth and the kind of the sharing and the bond that you speak of in that song. So it's been a favorite of mine. And I think in many ways, it epitomizes what all of us as young individuals and the youth of the country and the globe have aspired for. And closing with that, thank you for decades of beautiful poetry and evocative storytelling. Thank you so much for being here and welcome. Thank you so much. Over to you, Suchetana.
Thank you, Shweta. Without further delay, and thank you, Chancellor Sir, as well, we move on to the session. There are very few across languages and cultures who have been able to inverse, conjure, capture, and captivate the imagination of the masses, disregarding time, class, gender, caste, and religion. It is my great honor to be in conversation with Janab Javed Akhtar, a poet who has managed to color our lives in hues often imagined, but seldom realized. Decorum dictates that I say a few words about Javed Saab. Born into a family of poets, his nearly 6-decade-long career as a lyricist and screenwriter is seminal in the formation of modern commercial cinema. Just to make my case, people learned to love using his poetry. He's the recipient of 2 of India's highest civilian honors, Padma Shri in 1999 and the Padma Bhushan in 2007. I'm not going to list any of his work. Please look it up. Otherwise, we won't have a session and we'll run out of time. Instead, just so you know, I am Suchetana Banerjee. I teach literature and theatre at Symbiosis School for Liberal Arts, and I'm delighted to welcome Javed Saab to the 4th edition of Symbiosis Festival. Javed Saab,
By the way,
yes, sir.
Javed Akhtar Saab has received world famous Richard Dawkins Award. He's the only Indian.
Right. Thank you, sir. I'll start I have a few questions to Javed Saab and I'll put it straight to him. So, sir, congratulations on the release of the Archies. We will start from there. How was it to write for these young voices who for us are displaced in time? Because they are set in 1960s Goa, they are young people. it's an adaptation of a Western comic book. How was it? How was the feeling to write for these voices?
Well, I suppose writing for young people of 1960s was not very difficult because I was also young in 1960, so it was easier. But on a more serious note, you know, I think to be a lyricist, you need not be a great poet, but you have to have tremendous versatility and a very big vocabulary at your disposal. Because you have to write different kind of songs for different kind of films. Uh, a film, say, which is a historical, a film which is mythological, a film which is contemporary, a film rural, urban, educated people, uneducated people in urban uh, world, and so on. So the language has to change according to the intellectual and the social strata of the character, because it's their thought, it's their words. You are only a conveyor. It is the character that is talking, not you. So the vocabulary and the metaphor has to change. And for that, there are two things which are important. One, that you have to be a good listener and a good reader. And words are to a writer what colors are to a painter. So the more shades you have on your palette, things become easier.
Right, 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 right. So how is the poet Javed Akhtar different from the screenwriter Javed Akhtar?
You know, I'll tell you one thing, that there is an excuse given a very respectable title, lowest common denominator. Now, under this banner of lowest common denominator, people do bad writing, bad filming, bad acting, and hamming and vulgarity, obscenity, so on and so forth. And this is called lowest common denominator. I could disagree with that more. The fact is that personally, to me, writing literary poetry and writing film songs is like talking at a seminar and talking in a public meeting where there are, say, 50,000 people, 25,000 people you are addressing. You should say the same thing. Your morality, your aesthetic should remain intact. That should not be affected. But if you are talking to 25,000 people instead of 50 intellectuals and academics, then your vocabulary will change and you'll make it think a bit more simpler and obvious and less nuanced, because you have to communicate to a huge crowd. The same way, when you are writing a film song, you are addressing many people, and these songs are for many people who are not particularly familiar with the tradition of poetry.
That's right.
Or the metaphor of poetry.
Right.
So, but the song should reach them too. So it has to be, there are some kind of simplification is necessary and slightly more obvious and reachable and understandable by the common man who doesn't have time or inclination for this poetry. So that is how it is. But saying that because it is for the masses and because it is for the public and because it's a film song, I should be allowed to write wrong grammar, a bad language, or obscenity or vulgarity. I don't accept that. A film song can be a very good song. Even a literary poem can be a bad poem.
Absolutely.
So it is not the genre that will decide the standard or aesthetic, but your effort and your intent.
Right. I come back to the very idea of vocabulary. And because we have very many budding poets in the crowd, what would you say to them regarding your methods of maintaining a dynamic range, which enables you to write lyrics, let's say for Silsila in 1981, Rock On for 2008, and Gully Boy for 2019? And I have picked up very specific examples so that we can explore that range of writing.
See, it can't be done cold-bloodedly. It has to come from your basic convictions and morality. The problem is that somehow we believe that anybody who is born after us has less competence than us, less intelligence, less IQ, because the person is born after us. At the same time, we are not willing to believe that everybody who was born before us has more wisdom than us. That is, we don't accept, but we are very comfortably in a position where we feel superior when we meet a young person.
Hmm.
The fact is that they know many things which I don't know.
Hmm.
And if we have this respect for the younger generation, and more often than not, when we are meeting young people, people who are much younger than us, we don't listen. When they are talking, we are waiting to talk. That when he will stop this gibberish, I will give him wisdom. And we keep rehearsing that speech in our mind instead of listening to the person.
Hmm.
The problem, the main problem in this world, that we don't listen. We are bad listeners. If you listen honestly and with certain degree of curiosity, a young person will tell you many things which you don't know. Of course, there are many things which we know and they don't know.
Mm.
But they should also be curious and objective enough to listen to us carefully. Otherwise, it will be their loss. At the same time, if I don't listen to them carefully, it will be my loss. This is where that so-called generation gap comes, when we stop listening. As long as we are listening and we are honest and objective enough to believe that it is their world, we are living there. But today the world belongs to these people and they are deciding the norms. And we listen to them, then we will never become obsolete.
Right. Right.
But it cannot be done as a policy.
Hmm.
Policies get exhausted very quickly. It has to be a basic conviction.
Right. Okay. Right. So let's say the very idea of listening, right? What you just said, and I think it's very important and poignant at this point of time because Chief Justice of India came for our convocation at Symbiosis, and he said exactly the same thing. Yes, and yes, and he said exactly the same thing, that we are forgetting to listen, and it's very important as a society to listen to each other. And I think the audience will take a lesson from this. That both of you saying this, right? So, which author has influenced you? I have read somewhere that you are a Krishan Chandra fan, but what about other authors that you read? Which writer in particular?
Many. Actually, in my younger days, I have read a lot of classical literature of our country and of Europe, whether these Russian writers or American novelists, from Steinbeck to Gorky to Nikolai Starovsky to Alberto Moravia to Balzac, to so on and so forth. Nowadays, I'm afraid I don't get time, and I'm ashamed, I'm not happy about it, to read those thick novels, which I was a chain reader. Like people are chain smokers. The moment they finish one cigarette, they light the other one. So that is how I used to read, without a gap. The moment I would finish one book, I would start another. And for years, when I was younger, I did that. But then you get so involved with lives and work and meetings and conferences and going and giving interviews and so on and so forth, that you don't get time for as much reading as you would like to do. But I think all of it has influence. The classical literature teaches you the depth, the third dimension of the characters and the incidents. At the same time, the modern literature, I am in favor of, I always advise young people that while you are reading classics, while you are reading real, solid, heavy literature, keep on reading light literature. Novels which are sold on railway stations, you must read them. Because otherwise, you, at a very young age, you remain drier. You become dry, which is very bad for writing, and which is very bad even as a person also. You should not, there is a kind of thing that is called intellectual conceit. That should not come in. So read light literature, Mills and Boons, James Hadley Chase, Ernest Henry Gardner. Read all kind of literature. Don't read only one. So I think in modern, when I was young and I started reading novels at the age of 12, 13, and serious novels, my elders used to tell me that don't get impatient. You have to read a novel for at least 40 pages to get into it properly. And you will understand the atmosphere, the thoughts, the characters. At least give yourself 40 pages to learn that. Now times have changed. The novelist wants to catch the reader at the very first line. Otherwise, they know that the attention span has become so short that they put down the book.
Yeah.
Now, we should learn both the things, but not at the cost of one another. You should have depth, you should have third dimension, you should have proper empathy with the characters and incidents, but at the same time, the tempo should be today's tempo. Everything has become fast. Your narrative cannot be from 40s. It won't match. So you have to understand there was a time when you would write a letter to somebody, it will take 3 days to reach. Then for 3 days, the person will think, what should I say and how do I reply? Then the person will write a letter and send it to you another 3 days. It means on average, the communication was taking 10 days.
Right.
One communication was of 10 days. Today, it doesn't take 10 seconds. The moment you dial the number on your mobile. So life has become very fast. Communication has become very fast. So we cannot stick to the speed of communication and literature, which was there in say 30s and 40s or 20s.
Right.
So you have to be modern, but this tempo should not be at the cost of the depth. More often than not nowadays, I see, to my disappointment, that we achieve speed at the cost of the depth. So a certain shallowness is coming up. So that we should avoid that. There should be a happy balance between depth and speed.
Right. Right.
And that you can understand and appreciate if you read all kind of books.
Right. So who is this contemporary writer that you're reading right now?
Well, nowadays I'm reading a very thick book on Akbar.
Okay.
A lady, her surname is Makote, Ira Makote or something.
Ira Mukute. Yeah.
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 So that's a very interesting book. I think I'll finish it in next 2-3 days. But
Okay.
this is at the moment reading. And after that, I intend to read. I have kept it on my bedside. The physics of future.
I see. Okay.
So that's a book that what is going to happen in 30 years, in 70 years, in 100 years. And now these are not wild guesses. I just went through the pages. The writer, he's a Japanese writer and very well-known writer, that what is being experimented or developed in different institutions, he has named the institutions also, that what we will have a facility or achievement in science in 30 years, what is definitely achievable within 70 years, and where we will reach in 100 years. So this is a very, very interesting book. So I intended, let me finish this one, then I'll start that.
Okay. Yeah. Right. The yardstick of what is socially acceptable changes in each decade. Everyone is so careful about not offending the sensitivity of any community or group. As a screenwriter, how do you negotiate with this?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the sensitivity. Then we will decide how. Why? I don't understand. Have you ever heard that someone said this and the sensitivities and feelings of or the emotions of some atheist got hurt? Have you ever heard that?
No.
Why atheists don't have feelings or emotions?
Right.
Sentiments get hurt. So atheists don't have sentiments. They never get hurt. Why? It's a serious question. Why only religious people sentiment get hurt? And no rationalist has ever complained that my sentiment, somebody has said something very religious, so my sentiments are wrong. Because a rationalist or an atheist has argument, logic, reason to defend his or her point of view. When you don't have any logic or reason or rationale, the only thing that can defend your belief is the emotion, sentiment. That is why it hurts, because what they believe in cannot be defended by any reason, any logic. I mean, so what do you do? Sorry, it will happen, it will keep on happening, and it will increase. Although, I mean, there are forces which try to quieten you, and to great extent, I think today the rationalists and atheists are in a position where homosexuals were 50 years ago or 60 years ago. I mean, the closets are full of atheists. And sometimes they peep out, sometimes they take one tiny step outside, and then all the sentiments are hurt, and they go back to the closet. But this is inevitable. There are certain things which are inevitable. Like this world will become, to a great extent, it can never become totally rational. But in all humility, except that, and should not. Because love, again, is an irrational emotion. Why should a mother love the child and take so much of trouble? It is not rational. But we are surviving as a species because of certain irrationality. So that is precious, that should be protected. But after that, we should see to it that the door which was made for the protection of human race should not be used by superstitions. The door of irrationality was made to see to it that a mother takes care of the child. But from that door, all the superstitions also enter. That has to be checked. One. Another thing which I think is inevitable, again, I mean, people now, it has become slightly awkward for them to say it openly, but a male chauvinist still doesn't agree with any concept of equality between gender, but it is inevitable. I honestly believe that it's a matter of perhaps at the most 100 years. This world will be taken over by women. It is, they are trying their best to stop it. At every stage, I mean, the chauvinistic forces are fighting against it and trying to block it at any level. But it is inevitable. This is a tsunami that is coming, and it will engulf everybody. The same way, this hurting the sentiment business will also have to receive. It's impossible that it won't. It will happen. Now, obviously, today it has not happened. So one has to be careful how to say things. You should not say things which will have a counter effect. If you are sincere, like I am a rationalist, I'm an atheist, but I'm careful that I should not say anything which will be counterproductive and will make people even more fundamentalist, more religious, more fanatic in kind of a reaction. So you have to slowly give these doses. I mean, walk very carefully, take tiny steps. There's no hurry. You have centuries. I may not be there, but there'll be people who will keep on doing this. And one day we will get over this kind of intolerance which we see in this world. It will happen. Because anything illogical cannot stand for ever. That's not possible. We think of human race in 100 years, 50 years, but in human civilization, 100 years are nothing, just nothing. I mean, if you are a student of history and tomorrow morning you have to give your first paper of history and you want to revise, and quickly when you turn the pages, Instead of one, if you turn 2 pages, 100 years are gone.
Right.
So, yes, today one has to be careful, not only in India, everywhere. You can't say everything. And when you say it is counterproductive, because it makes people who are superstitious, people who have some illogical, irrational belief, it makes them more staunch.
Hmm.
So you have to go very gently and slowly and be careful that you don't upset the apple cart.
Right. Right. Yes. Yes. There seems to be a very fine balance between personal experience and what you feel in a moment, let's say a universal emotion, right? Have you ever taken a story directly from real life event or from a newspaper article and written on that, used it in a script?
Actually, at the moment, I have just finished a script, a screenplay, not minus dialogue, complete scenario, but the final dialogue is not there, which is based on reality, which is
Okay.
a chapter of a history.
Mhm.
And because it's a chapter of recent history, so we have a lot of details, and I have tried to be as true as possible to it. But what happens that even if you take ultimately what is successful in the world is those 8 or 9 classical plots. Within those classical plots, you can have many scenes which you have observed in your life, which you have seen happening. So somewhere it becomes a compilation of what you fantasize and what you have really seen. So some kind of an amalgamation of that turns into a good story. It should be what is true, and it should also be what should be true.
Right. 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 And I think poets have that right to say what should be true. I mean, that's also kind of poets' responsibility, I think, that it can be true, right? To kind of show that hope. So you have written love songs, you have written lullabies, bhajans, kavalis. You have also written street urchin songs, a cabaret number, let's say a sad song, a villages song. You have written for every kind of character, right? You have written even Darde Disco, right? So you must have a control over vocabulary and language so that vocabulary of your song suits different characters, just what you were saying a while ago. I come back to this again, that how do you access these different vocabularies? Because there are many students who would want to go into filmmaking, film writing, script writing. And how do you access these different vocabularies that characters use in the dialogue? You said that listening is an important part, observation is an important part. But technically, how do you kind of put these
reading, and reading, and reading.
Yes, and reading. That's right.
Don't be in a hurry to become a writer. First of all, become a very, very committed reader. Read as much as possible and read all kind of literature. All kind of literature. Don't be highbrow. Read classics and read light-hearted literature, like read comic book, anything. Keep reading. While you are reading the masters and different kind of people with different writing has many genres, and if you are familiar with all genres, you will have a huge vocabulary. Then once you develop relationship with the words, even when you are talking to somebody, and then somebody uses an unusual phrase, somebody uses a word in almost different sense, quickly you will pick it up and you will put it in your repertoire. And that is how it keeps increasing. But writing should not be the first rank. It should be the last one. For years, your young people, I hope I'm addressing the young people, for years you should read. Keep on reading. And as far as the poetry is concerned, not only read, but you should remember it by heart. Because when you remember poetry by heart, then you understand its musicality, its rhythm, the usage of words, how one word melt into another. That you will understand only if you remember it. While reading it on some page is not enough. So all good poetry should be the tip of your tongue.
Right. Okay. With all the reading that you have done, have you ever thought of adapting a novel to the screen?
Oh yeah, many times. But I suppose there was a time when a lot of novels of particularly Premchand were made into film, Gaudan and Gaban and some other novels. Saraswati Chadar is a classic Gujarati, and Sharad Babu's novel. I mean, ultimately Devdas was a novel.
Right.
But what has happened, in particularly Hindi mainstream cinema, every good novel will be deeply rooted in a particular culture. It cannot be generic. Now, there is a certain element of danger because if the story is totally rooted in particular culture, the people from other subcultures in India is a country that looks like a continent. So
That's right.
they may get alienated. So Hindi cinema has developed its own state, its own culture, and which is generic and connects with Punjab, Bengal, Maharashtra, Gujarat, everywhere. They have the same heroine will do Bharatnatyam and Bhangra. And she will have Mangal Sutra. Now Mangal Sutra has become an Indian process. It was not. There was a time. Now Mangal Sutra, she'll wear Mangal Sutra also, but then she will do some Gujarati traditional puja also, and so on. So we have taken things from different states and different subcultures and prepared one culture for Hindi cinema. Now, this kind of khichdi cannot be found in a great novel. That's not possible.
Right.
So
Right.
that is the thing. Perhaps that comes in a way that we don't want to put all the eggs in one basket. Perhaps.
Right. But if you choose to, let's say, adapt a novel ever, which one would that be?
There is a novel in Urdu, it is translated in English also. Its title is Aag Ka Darya.
Yes, of course.
Aag Ka Darya, the river
Yes.
of fire. Are you aware?
Yes, yes. Kurtula in Hyder.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That is the pleasure of talking to educated people, You don't have to tell everything to them. They know much more than you.
No, sir.
This novel starts from Gupta period.
Yes.
And ends after the partition of India. It encompasses almost 2,000 years of Indian history, culture, tradition, beliefs. It is not that characters are flowing from one period to another, but it captures the whole ethos, the names of the city, the tradition, the religious belief. There is in the very first chapter, there is a discussion between a Brahman and a Buddhist priest.
Right.
What kind of a discussion is it? For OTT, I would like to see this novel as a series.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's very interesting. Yeah, for OTT when you say. Right.
Yeah. Because then you can cover everything.
Absolutely. And you can spread it out as well. Yeah.
In a film in the theater, you have limitation of time.
That's right.
At the most 3 hours and so on.
That's
but
right.
This is a great story. It's a great story. It tells so much about your country, your nation. I mean, your heart fills with pride.
Right. Absolutely. So, what kind of, I'm coming to the end of the session because there are a few students who would want to ask questions to you directly, and I would want to give them that chance. But I just still have 1 or 2 more questions before I let you go. So what kind of impact do you think a book has compared to a film? Because these days students would want to see a film instead of reading a book. The first thing is if you give them a novel, ma'am, is there a film that is made for this novel? So What kind of impact do you think that has?
I'll advise young people, and particularly very young people, say in early teens or maybe in single-digit age, that they should read comic books or say small novels, short stories.
Mm.
You know what happens? In a film, the menu is decided, the
Mm.
visual is decided, and it is served to you. You don't have choices.
Mm.
But in a novel, when you read a novel, you are the one who is the director.
Mm.
You are the one who is erecting the sets. They have set the palace, and the palace has that staircase and that door. Now it is for you to decide how big the hall is, how the stair goes up. You
Right.
are imagining it. You
Right.
are imagining the characters, giving them faces in your imagination. You are giving the locations are chosen by you. Maybe
Right.
the novelist has said a forest. What kind of a forest it is for you to imagine that forest? So you are a bigger participant in the
Mm.
narrative in a novel than a film.
Mm.
Because the film is giving you everything without asking you to imagine anything. It's
Mm.
right there.
Mm.
It is
Mm.
a fixed menu and given to you.
Mm.
It is a la carte. You can order. So that is a very good exercise for your imagination. You know, I must tell you, I had read Dracula when I was
Mm.
21, and I
Mm.
saw the film also later. Now the film has visual, sound effects, music, background, and so on,
Mm.
and the faces.
Mm.
The film fails to frighten you as much as the novel, where
Yeah.
there is nothing but words on a paper.
Mm.
Because
Right.
you are imagining,
Yeah.
and nothing can be more dear to you or more convincing than your own imagination.
Right.
That you get in a novel, not in the film.
Right. I hope all literature students are listening to
I
this.
must tell you one little joke about it. That there were two goats and they were grazing in a meadow, and then suddenly two of them saw that there was a film can there. And with their horns, somehow they managed to open the film can, and there was a complete film reel there. Between these two goats, they finished it, they ate it. And for a moment, there was a silence. But then one goat told another, I thought the book was better.
Right. Um, I come to my last question. Um, when you're credited with story, screenplay, and dialogue, what does this involve? I'm not sure whether the same distinction between story, screenplay, and dialogue is made in Hollywood. I would want to understand how does it work and what does this mean?
There was a short time when there was. I'll tell you, when after the Second World War,
Hmm.
many film directors from, say, Germany or from France or from other parts of Europe migrated to Hollywood.
Hmm.
Now, these people were masters of their work. They could write the scenario. This scene after that, that scene will come, and this
Hmm.
will be the conversation in that scene. This is the material, this is the growth of the story within this scene, and so on. But since English was not their language,
Hmm.
somebody else would write the dialogue of a
Hmm.
detailed scenario. Same
Hmm.
thing happened in India. You
Hmm.
know, cinema was developed in two places to begin with,
Hmm.
Bengal and Maharashtra.
Hmm.
Now, these people were great music cinema lovers,
Hmm.
but to make a Hindi film, they
Hmm.
needed somebody to write the Hindi dialogue. They would think of the story, they would think of the scenario also, that this will be the first scene, that is how the film will start, then this scene will come, then this scene. But the dialogue, the conversation, final words of the conversation, they had to have some Hindi Urdu person
Hmm.
write that dialogue.
Hmm.
So that is how dialogue became a separate category from the screenplay. But
Right.
now in US, it is not so, because those who generally there is a team.
Hmm.
Hardly you see that there is only one person who has read the complete script.
Hmm.
So team maybe some of them write the scenario, another write the dialogue and so on. We never come to know about it. But dialogue writing is a craft in itself.
Yes, absolutely.
And you can write a beautiful screenplay scenario that these are the, let's say, scenario. Screenplay covers everything. So instead of using this word, it is usually used for scenario.
Okay.
But now, if today you write a story and you write the detail of the scene, this is how it will start, that will be done, that will happen, then this will happen. But most probably you will ask somebody whose mother tongue is Hindi or Urdu to write the dialogue for it.
Right.
So that is how it has happened in India also, that Bengal and Maharashtra made the film, but the dialogue and the lyric had to be written by somebody else who were familiar with the language in which it was being made.
Right. I just need to ask you one more thing, and then I'll call in the students. When you began writing poetry, did you look to the classics of Urdu poetry and regard yourself as a part of that tradition? Or did you regard yourself belonging to a contemporary world? Because you made that distinction between the classics and the contemporary. And this is as a poet to you.
I was born in a family where there was poetry all around. My father was a very well-known poet. My maternal uncle was a superstar poet.
Right.
My father, my paternal uncle, my grandfather, mother and father, both of them were at a time when for a woman writing poetry was almost obscenity. My great-grandmother was a poet and so on. So I was born in an atmosphere where there was poetry all around. And by the age of 12, I remembered hundreds of couplets by heart. By age of 15, 16,000. Even today, I can narrate, recite other people's poetry to you for 2 hours, I'm quite sure. It will take some hours. I remember so much other. I started writing poetry at an age where most of the poets have stopped writing poetry. I was perhaps 30, 31 when I started writing. So generally they start in their late teens and do most of the work in their 20s. And this is true of poets like Shelley and Keats also.
Yes.
So most of their work is in their 30s. After that, they did not live. So many poets have done their best work in their 20s. I never wrote poetry in 20s. I started writing later. So I was not that I read because I wanted to write. No, I was deeply interested in poetry. I knew that I can write in meter, in rhyme, and so on. But I chose not to write. One, because somehow one believed that elders write poetry. My father writes, my uncle writes. So it's the job of the seniors, one somewhere psychological. Besides that, I was a rebel. I left my family, lived on my own from a very young age. At the age of 16, I was totally on my own. So when a shopkeeper's son, rebel, refuses to sit at the shop. So that is what I also did. But then when the shopkeeper died in 76, so I thought, ठीक है क्या करें, कोई तो दुकान पे बैठेगा. फिर कहीं मैंने I compromised with my heritage. That is how it happened. तो वो जो मैंने पढ़ी थी, हर तरह की पोइट्री पढ़ी थी, सुनी थी, याद की थी, उसका इंटेंशन ये नहीं था कि one day I'll become a poet. So I was really interested in it. And I had some young poets who were my friends who take my advice. They knew that I understand and I have certain talent for poetry. So I would suggest a line to them also. No, this is not the right, it should be like this. But I never used to write myself. That I started perhaps when I was 13. So ये जो सारी training है, it was not for a purpose. It was only love for poetry.
जी. बहुत शुक्रिया जावेद साहब for coming to Symbiosis Literary Festival and I'm much humbled to be in conversation with you. I will open the session up for audience question. Do we have any questions from the audience? Right, we have one hand up. Pravit Maganti. Pravit, can you switch on your camera and your mic?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi,
we can hear you.
hi, sir. My name is Pravit.
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
from Symbiosis School for Liberal Arts. Sir, you have been one of the frontrunners to put screenwriters, on a stage and give them their due. And you are also the one who advocated for the copyright laws back in 2012. Can you speak about the current situation regarding the screenwriters in Hindi cinema? And this comes in regard with the demands the Screenwriters Association has put up for equal right and credit.
Equal right with whom? What is equal right? I don't think they are asking for equal right with anybody. They want their fair rights. But in free market, what happens? That you have to prove yourself again and again and again, and get into demand. The market should demand you, so you will get money, you will get respect, you will get credit. You have to fight for it also. That is also true. Nobody will give you anything on a platter. But it is our responsibility to do good work again and again, and then prove ourselves, and then stand firmly and ask for our rights, and we should be prepared to be rejected. To hear no and say fine. We will work on these conditions. You don't want to meet these conditions? Thank you very much. I'm going. So if you can only get your rights by having the courage to say no.
Makes sense. Thank you so much, sir.
It's a very expensive sense, let me tell you, at the same time. At many places you will hear no, and you will not get the job. But you have to stick to your guns. But before sticking to your guns, you should have a gun. So the gun will come to you by your good work. Only then you will be in a position to ask for your rights. And don't bend. Nahi hota, toot ja, go back. That way you have to be Howard Rock of Fountainaire.
Sahi keh rahe ho, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Pravit. We have another hand up, Mehak Mehta. Could you just come on camera?
Morning. Hello, my name is Mehak and I'm from Symbiosis School for Liberal Arts. So my question to you is that the dialogue that you've written, Mere Paas Maa Hai, has become a cultural reference for a lot of us. So according to you, what do you think is the most effective punchline you've ever written?
No, that's for others to decide. I should only try to do my work as good as possible. Start thinking. This is very, very dangerous. When we get involved with our past laurels, we should not. It happened, people appreciate it, thank you very much. But you should be the first one to move on. Don't. I know of people who sit in their houses and watch their old films and again and again, and live their golden days again in their memory. That is suicidal. That is wrong. Whatever your work is like your children. Yes, you are the mother, you have brought them up, but now they become grown-up people, they are doing their own work. You can't take all the credit all the time of your child. The same way is your work, that your intellectual or creative umbilical cord gets cut after a little while. And that film or that novel or that poem becomes the personality like a child in its own. Now, there was a moment. There was a person who had written, but that person had passed away. You are no longer that person. Am I the same person who had written Mere Paas Maa Hai? No. It was written more than almost 50 years back. I hope I have changed and I have become different in 50 years, because I believe only fools and dead people don't change with time. So the fact is that I'm not that person who has written that. And it is perhaps my third cousin or fourth cousin who had written that. So now to take the credit of that person's work is not a very healthy thing. I should think, what am I doing today? I'm today's person. I'm not what I was 30 years back or 40 years back. That was some other person. I'm related to that person, yes. That's certain things which are common between me and him. But at the same time, I'm not that same person. So we should not get so enamored by our own past and start worshipping it and try to go back to it. It doesn't happen.
Yes, sir, that is very well said. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Alex Shah.
Hi, sir. I'm a literature student from Symbiosis School for Liberal Arts. And from all this talk about reading and poetry and writing and our experiences with literature, something that comes to mind is how nostalgia has been a theme that has been highlighted throughout Indian poetry in many languages. Specifically, I think it's been heavily prevalent in Urdu poetry and how we see it. I wanted to know what your thoughts are on the same.
Well, the best thing about nostalgia that I have heard is that nostalgia is nowadays not what it used to be. So, in good old days, nostalgia was very good. Now it is not of that quality. But the fact is that Urdu poetry is not exactly known for its nostalgia. You know, everybody has some nostalgia. You don't get, memory loss. You remember things. And you know, golden era was never the present era. It was always in nostalgia. It was in a past. So what happens that with memory throws away all the unpleasant, mediocre things out and prepares a past, well edited and well adjusted, which is wonderful. And then we start, like school days, my God, what a wonderful time we had in school. Of course, we did not have wonderful time. First of all, we had to get up very early and go to the school as a discipline. Then we used to be mortally scared of a teacher and so on. Now we have forgotten everything and we have turned our school days like some kind of a living in heaven. It's all in our imagination. It's a well-edited past that we talk about most of the time. Yes, in poetry, like in human being, every common person, there is some nostalgia and thinking those were the days, my friend. It's the same way, it is in the poetry also, but I don't think it's a predominant feeling in Urdu poetry. Urdu poetry, people are afraid know very little about. And Urdu poetry has, to great extent, been given a bad name by the ghazal singers, because they again sing what you call lowest common denominator. And most of the people whose first language is not Urdu, or they don't know Urdu, for them it is another language, they think this is Urdu. I will seriously suggest to all of you in the university to get this book is in 2 volumes, Hindustan Hamara. It is published by Raj Kamal, which is a publishing house in Delhi. Hindustan Hamara is edited by my father. It is the poetry of perhaps 400 years and its selection. The selection of 400 years poetry, which one way or the other is connected with our country. Our festivals, our deities, gods and goddesses, our cities, our rivers, our mountains, our national heroes, our icons, and so on. What kind of poetry has been written in Urdu? You will be, in last 200 years, political movement, at every turn of the political journey, what kind of poetry was written in Urdu? You must have that in your university's library, Hindustan. And actually, there should be a session where the students be there and different poems of this book should be written by different poets. 300 years ago, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, these poems were written. And people will look at Urdu with new eyes when they will know. Like on Ganga, what kind of poetry is written in Urdu on Ganga? It's unbelievable. There is a poem that whenever I read, I get tears in my eyes. Ganga ke teen roop. The morning of Ganga, the afternoon of Ganga, and the night of Ganga. It's such a fantastic poem that it gives you the complete picture. The ghat, the temples, all they are mentioned, and Kistavasi, what atmosphere is created early in the morning. And then in the afternoon, what Ganga becomes, and ghats become. And then in the night, what happens. Beautiful. So many people are unaware of this kind of poetry. Like when I wrote an arti on Krishna, so I wrote the complete crescendo with only his names, different names. There were many names. So the song, music director and director was surprised. How do you know so many names of Krishna? So I said, because I know Urdu. Now how many people know about it? So ये जो आप जरूर मंगाइए डॉक्टर साहब, ये मैं भी आपकी अटेंशन चाहता हूँ इस पे डॉक्टर मजूमदार. I don't think the sound is going to him.
No, I think he.
I was very strongly recommending a book for your library, for university's library. Actually, it should have 3-4 copies. Hindustan Hamara. It is in Devanagari. It is available in Devanagari, and it has 400 years of selection of 400 years poetry of Urdu about India. Indian culture, Indian traditions, Indian deities, Indian temples, Indian rivers, Indian traditions. I came to know about certain festivals because of that book. Like I didn't know that there is a festival called Chamavani. Now Chamavani is a Jain Tevhar where that day you are supposed to forgive people and totally wash your heart out for any vengeance or bitterness or anything. Really forgive the person. Now I didn't know that there is a Tevhar, that there is a poem on it. So I came to and Zarur se Zarur padhiye, and you will know, you will see the other face of Urdu poetry. It is not only Mehboob or Ishq or Sham. It's not that.
Right.
This has been made popular by the other singers.
Right. We'll certainly get that book, and then we'll call you to discuss it with the students.
Oh yes, and I'll come and recite different poems. I promise you. And I'll
Thank you.
Study, and I'll do that. That will be my privilege. Yeah, sure.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you, Alex. With this, we come to an end of this session, this beautiful, beautiful Sunday morning. Bahut shukriya, Javed Saab, for joining us for Symbiosis Literary Festival. Mujumdar Sir, thank you very much for joining us on Sunday morning.